On behalf of our trustees, Dean Rudy Hassel and our Associate Dean and Professor of Law, Eric Mitnick, I want to welcome you all to the historic Balboa Theater and the dedication of the Thomas Jefferson School of Law's gorgeous new home in the East Village here in downtown San Diego. Yes. I'm Beth Kransberger, Associate Dean of Student Affairs, and it is my privilege to be with you and guide you through the very short evening here. We're here to both formally dedicate the new extraordinary building, but to also mark a ritual in the development of this law school. We often remark that we as a law school are, quote, moving at the speed of light in terms of our growth and development. If that's so, we feel it particularly important to periodically pause and acknowledge where we've come from, and then to fix our sights on the next horizon beyond us. As we mark this ritual tonight, we're thrilled to have you all here, and thrilled that you've honored us with your presence. Perhaps most importantly, I want to assure you we're going to be brief. Our goal is to be here for an hour and then adjourn to the law school for some fine food, fellowship, and just the opportunity to sit and talk. Let me begin by acknowledging a few special people in attendance with us tonight. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, we are profoundly blessed and more thankful than we can say that you are with us here tonight. The generosity you've shown us with your time is just simply extraordinary. For lifelong educators, as many of us are, it's not enough to say that we're moved that you're here. I tried to explain to a non-law person last week what it meant to have you with us tonight. And as I reached for a more meaningful cultural reference for this person, I said, it's like having the Dalai Lama or the Pope or Dr. King or the Beatles or Cesar Chavez come to your house. Yes, we're having a breathless nerd fest up here, and we're just so damn excited. In addition to Justice Ginsburg, I personally read the names of over 700 of you in attendance with us tonight, and I was floored by those of you given so generously of your time to be with us tonight. You are all extraordinary and important. We know you've had your long, busy days. You have fought for justice and the rights of all, and we know you're tired, and we're between you and a very nice open house buffet. I'm privileged, therefore, to acknowledge members of the state and federal bench from both the trial and appellate courts. Justices and magistrates, would you please rise so we can pay you your due? Thank you so much. Next, we have friends and supporters from the DA's office, from San Diego Unified School District, distinguished elected officials, U.S. attorneys, local journalists, colleagues from our two sister law schools here in town, parents of current students, distinguished lawyer colleagues from private firms, state and federal agencies and nonprofits here in town, local businessmen and women, representatives of our terrific local bar associations, including the San Diego County Bar Association, the Earl B. Gillum Law Society, the Tom Homan Law Society, the La Raza Lawyers Association, the Pan Asian Bar Association, the Iranian Bar Association, the South Asian Bar Association, and Lawyers Club, among several other groups. We also have members of our design, engineering, and architectural firm who visioned our extraordinary home, as well as representatives from several trades who literally put their sweat and time into its construction. You are truly a diverse and highly talented group of friends, family, colleagues, supporters, and again, you honor us with your presence. We are also incredibly honored to have City Council President Gloria with us, who we'll hear from in a moment, as well as the Honorable Justice Brito, former Chief Justice of the Supreme Federal Court of Brazil, the Honorable Justice Toffoli, current Justice of the Supreme Federal Court of Brazil, as well as the Honorable Noël Lenoir, former Justice of the French Constitutional Court. I also want to acknowledge our current Assistant U.S. Attorney Randy K. Jones, who is also, by evening, after his day job, the current chair of the Thomas Jefferson School of Law Board of Trustees. Welcome, Randy. As well as Mr. Gay Baldini, current president of the Thomas Jefferson School of Law Student Bar Association. And last but not least, Attorney Renee Galente, current president of the TJSL Alumni Association. Before I go any further, I also want to acknowledge 16 very special people here tonight who've been at the law school for 20 years or more. I want to acknowledge you all. Some of you are in the room and some of us are here in spirit with us. Professor Thomas Golden, who has been here for 36 years. Professor Bill Slomanson, who has been edged out by 1 year, 35 years. Professor Joy Dillman. Joy insists I don't speak the number of years she's been with us. Ms. Lisa Ferreira, who came to the law school when she was 4. She's been here 28 years. Ms. Kim Grennan, Ms. Kay Henley. Professor Julie Greenberg. Professor Maureen Markey. Instructor and adjunct Professor Paul Spiegelman. Professor and former Dean Kenneth Vandevelde. Professor Marjorie Cohen. Professor Mary Beth Harold. Ms. Mary Ritoriano. Professor Ellen Waldman. Ms. Claudia Ferguson. And Dean Lori Wolfmeyer. These extraordinary folks represent our roots, our history, and our institutional memory, and for them, we are so blessed to have them still. As we frequently say, the heart of any law school is its faculty, and we'd like our faculty, past and present, to rise for a well-deserved acknowledgement. Just as the heart of any law school is its faculty, similarly we believe that the spirit and soul of our law school is our current students and alums. Current students and alums, will you please rise and be acknowledged? And finally, as we carry the metaphor one last step, a law school's staff and administration is the nerve center that allows the school to move, function, and operate. Staff, past and present, please rise and be acknowledged. At this time, it is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce the smart and talented current third-year student, Stephanie Ross, who will lead us in singing of the national anthem.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the
Thank you, Miss Stephanie. Next, I want to greet you all on behalf of the mayor. The mayor was caught in a meeting and is doing the important work of all of us, so he sends his warmest greetings and fondest wishes to you all. Now I'm delighted to call to the podium City Council President Todd Gloria from District 3. Councilman Gloria is a third-generation resident of District 3 here in San Diego, and his commitment to service and volunteerism is legendary. He's also here in honoring us as an enrolled tribal member of 2 nations, including the Haida. Without further ado, Councilman Todd Gloria.
Thank you, Dean and Stephanie. Very good work on that singing. Excellent. A dual threat there, singer and a lawyer, soon to be. It is wonderful to be here. I'm really here for 2 reasons. One, on behalf of a neighborhood that I have the honor of representing, and secondly, on behalf of a city that I know that we all love. If I can begin, as the guy who's just so fortunate to represent downtown San Diego on the city council, I cannot tell you what it has meant to have this law school come to East Village. It has been a catalytic change, a real game changer in a neighborhood that was looking for change. To have 1,000 or more students sort of plow into East Village has turned that community around overnight. And I want to give a lot of credit to my predecessor, Councilmember Kevin Faulkner, who I know worked well with the school to transfer you from your Old Town location to your new East Village location. Kevin deserves a lot of credit, and I see some members of his team that are here. Please give our thanks to Kevin for his leadership in getting Thomas Jefferson to East Village. And what you need to know is that downtown is a neighborhood. It's a neighborhood of 30,000 people who are looking to move this into being one of our world-class, vibrant urban centers. And to have a law school of this caliber in our East Village is a signal to the world, really, that East Village is on the rise and that San Diego's downtown is second to none. So thank you for that investment. As a non-lawyer, that's how I have to talk, because I don't know anything about what you really do, but except for what Jan Goldsmith tells me. But I am grateful for the investment in this neighborhood. And then let me take that a step further, because when I was looking at the list of alumni, and I see that we have so many here, one of my absolute favorite, our District Attorney, Bonnie DeMantis, who's with us. Bonnie, it's always good to see you. And on the other side, the public defender, Henry Corker, just to make sure we're balanced and all that. But this school has helped turn out, yeah, a round of applause for some defenders. And some wonderful judges, Gary Hanley and others who I adore, who are wonderful citizens, all of who are contributing themselves to doing what we're all in the work of doing, which is making this America's finest city. So for your investment in East Village and for your creation of wonderful citizens who are helping to move this city forward, you have the thanks of our mayor, Bob Filner, and every member of the city council, and I'm just glad to claim you as my own right here in the heart of District 3. Thank you all so very much, and congratulations on a wonderful, iconic addition to our city skyline.
Thank you, Councilman Gloria. It's next my honor to introduce our Dean, Rudy Hassel. As many of you know, Dean Hassel is the most experienced dean in all of U.S. legal education, having been a dean at 4 accredited ABA law schools now, and now is in his 33rd year of deaning. Wow, there were chuckles over that. As we like to say to the new incoming students, he's been dean longer than most of you have been alive. I have to say that it was a fascinating process to watch him guide the building process. As many of you know, this was his 3rd law school building that he either participated in the building or renovation of in his career. And he had a very clear message he wanted the building to embody. He wanted the building to communicate a message of welcome and comfort, and not a message of austerity or a message of, you're not as smart as we are, so please do not linger, as many law schools seem to scream from their halls. His attention to detail was nothing short of mind-boggling, and it is the spirit, presence, and vibe of any law school is indeed in the details and the thoughtful touches. Without further ado, Dean Rudy Hassel.
Thank you, Beth, for that wonderful introduction. I want to describe a journey. No, to be more accurate, I want to describe an odyssey. As a classics major, I'm familiar with the story of Odysseus. My story hopefully will not mirror the full 10 years of his Odyssey, but it has had many of the same challenges that he and his crew encountered during their Odyssey. Our Odyssey began in 2005 when I arranged for our then board chair, Sandy Kahn, to come up to Seattle for an ABA conference on law school architecture. And that really set in motion a series of events that culminated in our dedication today. And I know Sandy is here, and I'd like to acknowledge his presence. He was the one that picked up the challenge and put together the pieces that enabled us to put together the financing and made the commitments with the board to proceed with that process. So I'd like to acknowledge Sandy's presence. Faced with a deteriorating physical plant in Old Town and increasing pressure from our neighbors to curtail enrollment and to reduce parking, the board made the decision to find a new location. That process involved the defeasance of bonds that were issued in 2005 and the sale of the Old Town property. We were successful with both of those challenges, but we closed that transaction during the San Diego fires of 2007, when documents were not even able to be delivered. FedEx was not operating during that period of time. But we survived that and were able to complete that process. We developed a financial plan with the assistance of a very imaginative team consisting of Joe Piscatell and Dean Flanagan from Merrill Lynch. We were finally able to close that transaction at the end of August 2008. The end of August 2008, and take you back to that period of time, which was 1 week before the markets closed and Merrill Lynch ceased to be its own entity. During the preceding year, we had developed the conceptual plans for the new building with the creative energies of David Simons and his team from S2 Architecture in Calgary, Canada. And I'd like to acknowledge David's presence here. You were really the inspiration for what ultimately developed in that building. David, if you'd please stand. We had traveled to a number of locations to see other law school buildings as a part of that design process, and some critical themes emerged that gave a basis for the spirit of this new building. We wanted to build a building that supported the culture of the school as an inviting and welcoming, diverse, collaborative academic environment, where the focus was on students, student interaction, and development. We had hoped to draw upon our location in San Diego, in particular the downtown area of San Diego, for the colors, the textures, and the themes. We wanted to exemplify environmental responsibility and sensitivity, and we in fact achieved LEED Gold status for this particular project. And finally, we wanted the school to be a source of education to the users of the building in the art that was selected, in the plants, and the various displays. We started construction in December of 2008, and we took occupancy in January 2011, a little bit over 2 years from the start of construction. We had a great team who worked together to ensure that the building incorporated the elements that we sought to achieve. And I'd like to recognize Eric Aragon and Steve Nelson of Midwest General, who were the owner's representatives, and I think they're here today. To Deborah Elliott of ID Studios and her imaginative team, who served as our interior designer. And finally, Greg Knoll is the landscape architect. We had a few challenges, like the challenges of Odysseus with the sirens, the Cyclops, the Scylla, and Charybdis. I still remember that call in February of 2009, just a few months after the start of construction, when the contractor said he had discovered the fossil remains of what turned out to be a Columbian mammoth, 300,000 years old. A shell bed of unique scallop shells, and hopefully you've all received one as a little memento of being involved in this process. The remains of a baleen whale that's about 500,000 years old, a predecessor of the whales that are continuing to move down the coast, and during this season especially, you can see them as they continue down to the Baja. And even gold particles from an ancient riverbed. But none of these discoveries slowed us down. What they did is they established an even closer connection to the namesake for this institution, Thomas Jefferson, who was known as the father of American paleontology and had a fascination with the discoveries of mammoth remains in the Hudson Valley and Big Bone Lick, Kentucky. The Notes on the State of Virginia, which he authored in the early 1800s, an original copy of which is in the library, make clear that an incentive for the Lewis and Clark expedition was the discovery of living mammoths in the western United States. I invite you to look at the fossil collection that we have here at the law school on the 4th floor of the library. The vast majority of that collection is in the Museum of Natural History and stands as a dominant presence on the upper floors of that museum. And I also invite you to see 2 documents that we were able to secure that were written by Thomas Jefferson. They're original documents, and one is signed by him. They're in the lobby of the law school building and were generously loaned to us from St. John's University School of Law. From its earlier origins, the school has placed an emphasis on the international dimensions of its program of legal education and its outreach to other countries. During the early stages of the construction process, we collected the coins from over 100 countries. They were added to the concrete foundation of the building during the construction as a symbol of the centrality of the internationalization of the legal education program and the importance of our international programs and connections. We built special relationships with Brazil, China, and France, and they are an important part of our celebration today. Unfortunately, our justice from the Supreme Court of the People's Republic of China was not able to be with us, and we just learned at about 5 o'clock this morning that our second justice from Brazil was not able to make the trip to San Diego. But we do have representatives who will be speaking to you about the connection and the importance of the relationship that we've developed. It is now a very distinct honor for me to be able to introduce all of our distinguished speakers from the judiciary. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has been an Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court since 1993. She had previously served as a faculty member at Rutgers and at Columbia Law School, and was a judge on the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia. I present someone who has had a long-standing relationship with Thomas Jefferson School of Law. She initially was a distinguished speaker in 1993 and enabled us to create a lectureship in her honor that constitutes the core of our annual Women in the Law Conference. I am pleased to present Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Thank you. I am glad to be with you this evening to celebrate Thomas Jefferson's grand new facility. To make a fine law school, of course, it takes something beyond LEED Gold, state-of-the-art housing and equipment. It takes a dedicated, creative faculty determined to educate students to regard law not simply as a trade, but as a public calling. Law and lawyers, one cannot avoid acknowledging, have fared rather badly in many a song and story. In grand opera, for example, lawyers are barely there. In Johann Strauss's Die Fledermaus, a lawyer has a bit part, but his assistance is so ineffective, he manages to get for his client 3 extra days in jail. In Janacek's Macropolis case, an entire act takes place in a lawyer's office, but performance attendees generally agree it is the dullest act in the opera. The lawyer in Porgy and Bess ups the price to get Bess a divorce when she tells him she was never really married before. The presiding judge in Gilbert and Sullivan's Trial by Jury sings of how he became a judge. It was managed by a job, and a good job, too. Celebrated writers from Shakespeare to Dickens to Sandburg have harbored a lingering distrust of lawyers, but the legal profession, of which I am proud to be a member, has among its practitioners brave men and women who strive to dispel the perception of lawyers as an unworthy lot. Women and men devoted to and at work for the public good, people who are the very best of lawyers and judges, the most dedicated, the least selfish. It is lawyers of that kind that Thomas Jefferson strives to train. And to the school's great credit, its students are drawn from all who compose We the People. Women, I'm told, account for 50% of the student body, students of color, over 40%. Shortly after leaving law teaching, my occupation for 17 years, for a judicial career that began in 1980, I wrote that legal education is a shared adventure for students, teachers, and alumni. The adventure, as I hope my presence tonight shows, also include jurists who have traded academic gowns for judicial robes. The good people assembled here, students, faculty, staff, alumni, community leaders, members of the legal profession, and public supporters of the Thomas Jefferson Law School. All of you have contributed in meaningful ways to the creation of a finely designed building. As you rejoice in the spacious new quarters and take pride in the innovative education that occurs here, may each of you participate and thrive in the shared adventure of legal education. And may that adventure, led by a talented and caring faculty, flourish in the grand facility we dedicate this evening. Every good wish.
Thank you, Justice Ginsburg. Our next speaker served as a justice of the Supreme Federal Court of Brazil from 2003 until 2012, having been appointed by President Lula in Brazil. He also served as Chief Justice of that court until his retirement from the court. He represents one of our important partners in the international programming that we have been doing. I am pleased to present Justice Ares Brito, and assisting him in translating is his daughter, Adrielle Brito.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I do not speak English with facility because I prefer speak in Portuguese. With translation, sure. Não é por acaso que a nossa sociedade global
It's not by chance that our global society
leva o nome de Sociedade da Comunicação.
is named of Communication Society.
Poderia se chamar também Sociedade da Informação.
It also could be called Information Society.
Porém, como a informação é um meio, é um caminho,
Although the information is a way,
e o objetivo e o fim é a comunicação, nós nos informamos para nos comunicar,
and the goal is the communication, we are all to communicate to each other.
é apropriado, é certo chamar a essa nossa sociedade de comunicação.
So it's the better way to call it a communication society.
Eu estou aqui com muito prazer, com muita honra, participando desta solenidade, no âmbito de um processo de comunicação.
It's the justice pleasure to be here tonight in this communication meeting.
Comunicação que é o intercâmbio cultural em vias de formalização entre a Thomas Jefferson School of Law e a universidade que nós chamamos de UniCeub, porque é um centro de estudos de Brasília.
And this is an exchange program among Thomas Jefferson Law School and Centro Universitário de Brasília.
O que buscamos é um intercâmbio, uma interação no plano cultural genérico e mais especificamente no campo jurídico e até judiciário.
And our goal is to reach the cultural similarities, the law, and also, sorry, can you repeat, please?
Judiciário.
And also judicial system. Sorry.
E todo intercâmbio é um somatório de culturas. Não é uma cultura substituindo a outra, as duas se somando para compor uma unidade superlativa de superior qualidade, portanto.
And every exchange program is a summatory of cultures, not one annulating one another, but also addition and summatory of cultures.
É assim que Brasil e Estados Unidos, né, terão mais uma via, mais um mecanismo de identificação de sua cultura em geral e dos seus dois sistemas jurídicos em especial.
And that's how Brazil and the United States can make a stronger relationship among cultures.
Somos, como aqui nos Estados Unidos, uma república e uma federação.
We are also a republic and a federation as United States.
E o nosso princípio jurídico mais alto é o da democracia.
And our highest democracy principle is the democracy.
Como aqui nos Estados Unidos é a democracia, o princípio uniformizador, né? Acho que posso dizer assim, dos demais princípios constitucionais.
This is a principle that uniforms all the other constitutional principles. That's democracy.
Mas uma democracia voltada para a promoção do humanismo, da dignidade da pessoa humana em última análise.
With the humanism, with the eyes to the human dignity.
O que, no nosso caso, no Brasil e certamente aqui nos Estados Unidos, pressupõe uma integração da imprensa livre com esse Estado democrático.
And it has to do with its integration between free speech and also the judicial law system.
Assim como um conceito de desenvolvimento socioeconômico que incorpore a dimensão do ecologicamente equilibrado ou sustentado.
So it has to make a balance between industrial development and the sustainability environment.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Justice Brito. Finally, I am honored to present a distinguished French jurist and diplomat. In addition to academic positions, she served as the first woman and the youngest person to serve on the French Supreme Court for constitutional matters from 1992 to 2001, and then was selected as the Minister of European Affairs from 2002 until 2004. We have had a close relationship between Thomas Jefferson School of Law and France through our summer program, and we look forward to building this relationship even more in the years to come. I introduce Justice Noel Lenoir.
Dean Hazel, Justice Ruth Ginsburg, Justice Brito, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me to be here today with you in such respected company and with such community. Not so many lawyers in the world, I think, especially French ones, have had the privilege that I'm enjoying today to share the floor with such highly esteemed colleagues as Justice Ginsburg and Justice Brito. Let's first talk of the magnificent architecture of Thomas Jefferson University. I think it's something absolutely unique that we are inaugurating today. It's not only a fascinating creation and a fascinating garden. I know that you are also a gardener. That's one of your talents. But in my view, it also, and first and foremost, illustrates the great role played by American universities in this country, and because it attracts so many foreign students from all parts of the world. I'm convinced that for young students, the structure and even more the aesthetics of such a place contributes to the consolidation of two things. First, it shows how much effort is made in education to value the students who sometimes have to make sacrifices to have the possibility to advance. It also demonstrates, secondly, what kind of effort is made to bring together faculty and students in a sense of true, real community. And Thomas Jefferson University building is, in my view, very much illustrative of these two assets, and that we owe it to Dean Hazel. So we can, so we are in a theater, so it's a play also. Second, I want to render homage to my great friend Susan Tiefenbrohm. She is there, the first rank, whose career pays tribute to the ability of women, and sometimes of men too, to adapt and advance in a changing world. As you know, Susan was a distinguished professor of French literature, that's how she speaks fluent French, in the first phase of her professional career. And she became a prominent law professor in the second phase. Such prowess, I have to admit, is rare in France. But there is another reason why I praise her. That is because years ago, she created in the south of France, at the University of Nice, you can say Nice in English, a summer course which is a great success. So in a way, she's also a minister for transatlantic relationships. Pardon my French, but I would say it's very chic. Since, thanks to Susan, the most highly esteemed French and especially US justices gather to exchange ideas together and to the students, as well as to lecture. And I invite all the students here present to come to Nice in July. And of course, during these summer sessions, Justice Ginsburg is the star of the show, as she is today. Lastly, I would like to express my supreme admiration for Ruth Ginsburg, who was my first physical contact with the real members of the US Supreme Court. As a student, and then as a lawyer, I was told, of course, of this court as a model. And I knew especially of Roe versus Wade in particular. But I had no anticipated at that time that it should one day discussed in real with the justices of this court. I'll never forget Ruth's warm welcome some 20 years ago at the Supreme Court building. I had been appointed a member of the French Constitutional Court a year before, and we had a very interesting exchange on recent case laws. I immediately was impressed, but also I immediately felt in the presence of someone with a vision of her role as strong supporter of American democracy. I must say that during my mandate, limited to 9 years as it is in France, I regret it, but that's how we are, this first contact was a constant inspiration of mine. First, it reinforced my belief that constitutional law has not only to do with law in its capacity to settle conflicts, but also, and I must say essentially, with values such as freedom, equality of rights, solidarity. Dean Hazel, let me conclude to thank you for your invitation, congratulate you for this building, which is a marvelous work of art, as well as it is certainly a very functional structure to make academics and students still happier to live in a truly marvelous community that you have gathered tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Lenoir. And now a person who really needs no introduction in this room, Mr. Randy K. Jones, Assistant U.S. Attorney and current chair of the TGSL Board of Trustees. As many of you know, Mr. Jones is a naval veteran, having left active duty and reserve duty with the rank of commander after 29 years of service. And perhaps more importantly, Mr. Jones is a lifelong Tar Heel and ACC disciple. Mr. Jones has also served as former president of the National Bar Association and locally of the Earl B. Gillum Bar Association of San Diego, has been incredibly generous with its time and support. Randy walks the walk and talks the talk in terms of service and support of others and of the young lawyers in town. Randy recently assumed the position of the chair of our Board of Trustees last year, and we are so blessed to have him guide us in that capacity. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Randy Jones.
Thank you, Beth. Justice Ginsburg, distinguished guests, friends, this is a day of celebration for Thomas Jefferson School of Law. The entire law school community has worked tirelessly to create the facility that we are dedicating today. Let it stand as a lasting tribute to those efforts and as a symbol of our ongoing commitment to the rule of law in our society. With each generation of law students who will be educated within these walls, let us not only dedicate this building, but rededicate our lives to the principles on which Thomas Jefferson School of Law was established. A belief that access to a legal education should be available to all, especially to those who have historically not been a part of the legal profession. A commitment to high academic standards of excellence, a desire to develop graduates who understand their obligations to their clients and to the society in which they are working, an effort to produce graduates who are prepared to serve clients, having been introduced to essential professional skills and values in a law school, in addition to receiving a sound theoretical foundation. And finally, an understanding and appreciation of the role of law in the international and multicultural world in which we live. If, I say if, we achieve these objectives of our academic program, then the building of this new facility will be justified and not in vain. In closing, I would like to acknowledge the presence of our current and former Board of Trustees who are celebrating this day with us. At this time, I ask that they all please stand and be recognized. Thank you again for being here, and we look forward to seeing you over at the law school for the continued celebration of this glorious day. God bless you.
Thank you, Randy. And now I have the privilege of introducing another person who really needs no introduction to this room, Professor A. Thomas Golden. Now, we have to get him back in the classroom tomorrow. Introducing Professor Tom Golden is like introducing your favorite uncle at the family picnic. Everybody already knows him, everybody loves him, and everybody fights to get to sit next to him and talk. As you may know, Tom began his career at the law school in 1976 after years of law practice. Tom is relentlessly committed to his students and his teaching. I've indeed witnessed this man spontaneously break into an impromptu contracts review session at the beach, while on a social outing for our Clio summer program that Judge Houston was also kind enough to host us for. And once the students got up the nerve to ask the fabled Professor Golden a contracts question, I looked over and there was Professor Golden kneeling in the sand, discussing offer acceptance and consideration. Without further ado, Professor Tom Golden.
Now, I know the faculty was already introduced, but as the sole representative of the faculty on the stage, I would like to recognize all of my colleagues on the faculty and friends and ask you to stand again, if you would. And would the adjunct faculty members in the audience also please stand? Those who, is that it? I know I speak on behalf of my colleagues when I say that we are humbled by the honor of the presence of the justices and other dignitaries on the stage today, so we thank them for that. In thinking about the dedication of our law school family's new home, I cannot help but reflect on the transition from our former home. At our Old Town location, we experienced incredible growth. We went from being a California State and Western Association of Schools and Colleges accredited law school, whose students were mostly part-time and nearly all from San Diego County, to an American Bar Associated law school and an Association of American Law Schools member, whose students came from every state and even other nations and keep getting younger all the time. We went from occupying less than 2 floors of a 3-story building to occupying the entire building, then the building across the street, and then the one next door. We grew to the point that our presence was burdening the neighborhood. With the law school building we dedicate today, we have transitioned from being a burden to being a contributor to San Diego's downtown redevelopment at its current epicenter, the East Village District. Students and faculty and staff no longer have to cross a busy street to get to their classes or to an appointment, instead incurring only the risk of a short elevator ride. We now hear a somewhat pleasant but mechanical elevator voice instruct us to stand clear of the door, instead of an angry motorist shouting to get the hell out of the street. Pardon my French. When the school reduced its physical footprint from 3 buildings to 1, it also reduced its ecological footprint. From the generation of electricity on our roof, to water-efficient landscaping, to access to public transportation on the ground, we are now less of a burden on the environment and have been recognized for, among many other things, our energy efficiency and use of renewable resources. Our beautiful new home goes beyond the school's own history and reflects, as Dean Hassel mentioned, hundreds of thousands of years of history of the land itself, in both materials and in nomenclature. Seashells, now visible and embedded in the floor, were discovered in the strata of earth during excavation, as were the remains of 3 prehistoric beasts: a mammoth, a whale, and a sloth. I recall driving down through the parking structure the first time I entered that structure at our new home, through the mammoth level, and I thought, how clever that the parking structure's level is named Mammoth. And then through the whale level, and then I was concerned as I entered that bottom level, but eventually relieved to see that it was the shell level and not the sloth. Thank God for those particular prehistoric mollusks. The state-of-the-art technology in our new home not only contributes to efficiencies in classroom teaching and legal scholarship, but has assisted in Thomas Jefferson School of Law's being at the forefront in distance learning. And just as distance learning enables the school to operate globally, we have also reached out in other ways to the rest of the world. Our residential LLM programs have brought students from distant nations, contributing not only to their education, but to the rich cultural diversity of our campus. And since moving to our new home, we have expanded our international programs and outreach beyond Europe and Asia to now include South America, where our relationship with both governmental and educational institutions in Brazil is already well underway. Many lawyers will tell you that the practice of law would be much more pleasant if it didn't require clients. See, there are some out there. That is one of the things that makes being a law professor such a great job. We get to jump into the law and speculate about problems of our own hypothetical creation without a lot of the messiness with which real lawyers have to deal. And just as those real lawyers would also tell you that the practice is more effective when the surroundings are comfortable and the necessary resources are close at hand, we find being professors the more effective because our new home provides those things. When I looked at my faculty colleagues who rose earlier, I firmly believe that any of us would teach in a cornfield if called on to do so. But our jobs are more pleasant and hopefully more productive in terms of what we contribute to the future lawyers who cross our paths and to the legal profession on the whole as a result of the new home of Thomas Jefferson School of Law that we dedicate today. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And now I'd like to introduce the current president of our Student Bar Association, Mr. Gabe Baldini. Gabe hails from Delaware and will graduate in May, God willing. He's a lovely guy and at the top of his class. Gabe has shown tremendous grace and leadership this year as the Student Bar Association president, and we thank him for agreeing to offer a few words on behalf of our current student body. Gabe Baldini.
Well, certainly have some tough acts to follow, to say the least. But as I stand here before you today, I am struck to reflect upon my time as a law student at Thomas Jefferson. I was fortunate enough to begin my law school career at the old campus in Old Town. Now, this may sound funny to some, but besides the long commute from living downtown and taking the trolley back and forth every day, and the constant leaking problem that we had, starting at the old campus has really given me the opportunity to see where this school has come from and where we are going. Never in my wildest dreams did I think, when I first began in Old Town, that I would be standing here giving a speech before a U.S. Supreme Court Justice. I bring this up because it is reflective of Thomas Jefferson School of Law. To think about where we have come from to where we are now as an internationally known law school is truly amazing. Bringing together such a distinguished group from all around the world and the Thomas Jefferson community as a whole is incredible. There are three words that come to mind when I think about our new building. The first is opportunity. We have the opportunities to do things like never before. The new building provides for a perfect venue for social outreach and networking opportunities. Just last week, we had an event on the third floor in which over 30 business owners from around San Diego, including the mayor himself, Bob Filner, came and networked with the students. This building allows us to host events like the annual sports symposium and ADR competition in which schools from all over the country, like Harvard, Notre Dame, and many others, come to compete on a national level. The possibilities and opportunities are thus endless. The second word that comes to mind is excitement. Excitement in the sense that this building offers a learning experience like no other. Students are genuinely excited to use the technology that this building has to offer. Student life has developed substantially since the law building has been built. There are so many places to study and collaborate with fellow students. As I think about Thomas Jefferson School of Law, a great Wayne Gretzky quote comes to mind. He stated, I skate where the puck is going, not to where it's been. I feel that this is reflective of our law school's path and vision. Illustrative of this point is the technology this building has. Students are able to learn in ways like never before. From creative, innovative learning stations for group collaboration to technology-driven lectures taught by our top-notch professors. Legal studies and student life is ever so changing for the progressive. And it's not only the students who attend Thomas Jefferson that are excited that I found. I remember last year walking into the student lounge during one of my study breaks from finals. I met a student from Cal Western Law School who was studying in our building. When I asked him why, his response was, basically, this building is amazing, and if I have the opportunity to study here, why wouldn't I? I felt proud of our school at that moment and continue to hear praise from all around our community. The last word that I would like to mention is legacy. Legacy of Thomas Jefferson is in our hands. This amazing building has raised the school on a global pedestal, and it's up to us, the Thomas Jefferson students, alumni, faculty, staff, and community as a whole to continue to build our school's legacy. With a great building like this comes great expectations. We will surely surpass these expectations, I promise. In conclusion, I would like to thank the entire Thomas Jefferson community who made this building possible. I would like to thank our distinguished guests and everybody in the audience for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here for this dedication. I would especially like to thank Dean Hassel for spearheading the campaign to get this building built, for without his dedication, determination, and vision, this building and my law school experience would not have been the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabe. And now I get to introduce perhaps the most important person on our program, second to Justice Ginsburg. And that is our attorney Renee Galente, as she represents our alumni, both near and far. As current president of the Thomas Jefferson School of Law Alumni Association, which even in our relatively young life as a law school numbers nearly 6,500 alums, Renee will offer remarks on behalf of that terrific group of lawyers. Renee was a magna cum laude graduate of the law school in 2008 and continues to pursue her calling as a trial attorney. Renee embodies the ethos of service and is an extraordinarily active member of, among other groups, the San Diego County Bar Association, the La Raza Lawyers Association, as well as the Lawyers Club of San Diego and the Human Rights Campaign. I'm privileged to have gotten to watch her develop from a talented civilian professional to law student and now to young lawyer. She is also one of the most grounded, lovely people that many of us know. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Renee Galente.
Thank you for that. Thomas Jefferson School of Law alumni defy all definition. We are those comprised of people who attended Western State University College of Law, fighting hard to take part-time classes, juggle work and a family. We are those who transitioned from San Diego to Old Town to become the first classes attending full-time in a red-tiled, stucco building right in the heart of everything dear to San Diego. We are those who saw ABA accreditation granted in 1995 and the school's change of its name to Thomas Jefferson School of Law. And some of us are those who never even knew any of that happened. All we knew was Old Town and Olinda's. And now we are those that have transitioned back down into downtown and associate the campus with dinosaur bones and innovative, cutting-edge, technology-filled classrooms. Different we may be, and different our experiences may have been, but in the end we share a common foundation built by this incredible law school and the unflagging and dedicated faculty and staff. And if there's one thing that this new building really should symbolize to all of the alumni out there, it's that change is good. Thomas Jefferson's School of Law does not let itself fall prey to easy acquiescence. It constantly challenges itself to be better, to provide more for its students. And with the new campus, the incredible programming, the faculty and staff, we are what a law school is meant to be. And so we alumni look forward to each graduating class who has the advantage of this new building, coupled with what we always knew existed, a quality education and incredible people who want to see us succeed. These students will achieve more and more, increasing the name and reputation of TJSL in the legal community locally, nationally, and internationally. But we as alumni also have a very special place in our hearts for those on whose shoulders we stand, for those who paved the path for us to enter the legal profession. And so it is my incredible honor to let all of you know that the Alumni Association has reinstated the process of honoring our alums who have so distinguished themselves as to be worthy of recognition on the school's Wall of Fame. I have to tell you, it was a rigorous process. There were many nominees for this honor, and it was very hard to cut it down. But in the reception following this, we are going to install District Attorney Bonnie Dumanis as our outstanding practicing attorney. We are going to install Commissioner Gary Block as our outstanding judicial officer. And we are going to install Leslie Alexander, the owner of the NBA team, the Houston Rockets, as our outstanding alternative use of a Juris Doctor. We hope that you will join us there. We're going to have that ceremony at 7:15 tonight. And we, the Alumni Association, would like to thank District Attorney Bonnie Dumanis, Gary Block, and Mr. Alexander for leading by example, for showing us what to do with our Juris Doctor and our experience at Thomas Jefferson. You are the spark, and you are the inspiration. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. As I sit and look out at all of you, as I've gotten to do for the last hour, I'm stunned at how many of you have helped and supported us in so many ways, every single time we've called, and every time our students have called. Our hearts are very full for the honor that you do us in being here with us, and I want you to know, every one of you, we are incredibly grateful for your support, friendship, and all that you've given us. We cannot thank our speakers and you, our friends and Thomas Jefferson family, enough for being here tonight. We ask that you remain seated during the recessional. Please do move with us now back to the law school as we break bread and enjoy great company. Do stop and see the original Jefferson documents. They are really quite extraordinary in the lobby. And perhaps most importantly, for those of you driving, parking will be available for all of you, courtesy of our friends at the Padres Parkade, right across the street for a special flat rate of $3 from 6 to 9 p.m. These are the critical details. Remember that the entrance is on 10th Avenue, which is a one-way heading east. If you're parking at the Parkade, please tell the attendant you're with the law school and they'll extend you the flat rate. Again, we thank you, you honor us, current students, faculty, staff, friends, family, colleagues within the San Diego community. We thank you for your generosity in being with us this evening. Please continue the celebration at school. Join us and enjoy.